This story is about things that are implanted into people, an area of medicine that is largely under-regulated. Hips that help people to walk, artificial lenses that allow people to see.
Close your eyes for a second and imagine lying on an operating table with your life quite literally in the hands of surgeons, hoping and praying that this implant will revive you. For many people, this turned out to be a nightmare. They felt violated as these devices meant to heal malfunctioned or even failed entirely. This isn't as rare as you might think. It's in fact a part of something much more sinister. In an investigation by the ICIJ called the Implant Files, the journalists discovered hidden dangers that weren't detected during the regulatory checks. Like always, behind this evil too lies a web of corporate greed and neglect. Profits take precedence over safety, and patients are left to pay the price. The medical industry sworn to heal us is actually risking our lives. How many people have suffered in silence? Pacemakers, artificial joints. All these medical implants were manufactured to give us another chance at life. I mean, for someone with a heart condition or limited movement, an implant can feel like a lifeline, a promise of a future unburdened by their condition. They're essentially supposed to restore independence and let people live a normal life. That is the belief patients get surgeries with. But the corporate giants always have a trick or two up their sleeve. The Implant Files investigation started with one simple question: are these devices really saving our lives? This global investigation, led by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, brought the medical technology industry under immense scrutiny. These life-changing devices were launched with minimal testing, shady approvals, and no transparency for the patients investing in them. A team of 256 journalists from 36 different countries worked relentlessly for 2 years and analyzed over 8 million records. The results will shock you. More than 1.7 million injuries and nearly 83,000 deaths were suspected to be linked to faulty medical devices in the last decade within America alone. Implants intended to save lives had become a direct threat to them.
It's not like drugs. You don't have clinical trials for every device.
A lot of these products were inserted into people without any testing.
As patients, people realize that they've been part of the evidence gathering and the experiment.
And so, the system that's supposed to keep us safe became a whirlwind of doubtful approvals and corporate pressure. It became clear in the investigation that many deaths were blamed on random injuries or accidents, while the truth was kept under wraps. And with more devices hitting the market all the time, governments kept speeding up approvals, putting people at even more risk. The investigation went global. Journalists traveled everywhere, from New Delhi to Mexico City, to uncover the real, painful stories behind this industry. Reporters talked to those affected by this fraud and whistleblowers who were brave enough to come forward, and found out that more than human lives, these big companies just care about the profits. A dark truth lies behind the glossy advertisements and the never-ending sales pitches. Profits outweigh patient health. Medical device manufacturers are fueled by greed for money, and they're in a race to bring new equipment to markets every day with barely any testing, prioritizing speed and cost saving over thorough safety evaluations. As competition grows, corporations cut corners, pushing devices through approval processes with little scrutiny. To them, each implant is a line item, a product to be sold, one that brings in millions, even billions for the industry. Patients are treated like testing grounds for unproven technology. Manufacturers lobby for quicker approvals and push against regulations that would slow down the flow of new devices. Devices that have not been adequately tested or whose risks were not accurately explained are still implanted in patients, and they end up with these approved devices that are more like ticking time bombs inside them. Ideally, regulatory agencies should be our protectors, making sure every device is safe before it's used. But the Implant Files investigation found a pretty grim reality. These agencies are stretched too thin, overwhelmed, and even influenced by corporate pressure. Instead of holding companies accountable, they're being pushed to speed things up and let risky devices slide through, all because of corporate influence. In the US, for example, the FDA has a fast-track process that lets high-risk devices skip a lot of safety testing, often just relying on whatever the manufacturers claim. This weak oversight means dangerous products are slipping through, and some new devices are approved just because they're similar to older ones, without needing full trials. It's like a dangerous game where patients end up paying the price. Globally, the situation is just as concerning. Many countries simply trust approvals granted by US or European agencies without independent testing. In other regions, regulatory frameworks are so weak that some implants reach patients without any oversight. But for patients, these lapses are deadly. Many have unknowingly received devices with undisclosed risks or ones that haven't been adequately tested. As long as regulators remain under-resourced and vulnerable to industry influence, patients will continue to pay the price for a system that places profits over protection.
So boom! All of a sudden, I went black. I couldn't see, and I instinctively grabbed back onto my steering wheel because my hands let go, and I went to my side, and I struggled to grab on, and I turned around to see if I could see my daughter, and I couldn't see anything because it was black.
An electrical shock.
Hundreds of patients have endured severe pain, disability, and even death due to device failures. As reported in CBS News, Bradley Little received pro-femur artificial hips and experienced failures when both implants fractured at the neck. The first break randomly occurred during a routine day, leaving him unable to walk. 4 years later, the second implant failed too. These incidents not only caused pain and suffering, but were very heavy on the pockets too. Despite many reported fractures of pro-femur hips, recalls were delayed, allowing device implants to remain in use. Similarly, thousands of patients who received Exactech knee or hip replacements faced early failures too. They had to go through painful revision surgeries. Irby, a patient, filed a lawsuit, and according to KFF Health News, Irby alleges that Exactech knew or should have known that the OptiTrack had an unacceptable failure and complication rate. He said Exactech used packaging materials of an inferior grade or quality. I think they were cutting corners to improve their bottom line, Irby told KFF Health News. Exactech denied the allegations in a legal filing in Irby's suit, in which it described the OptiTrack device as safe and effective. The company eventually recalled numerous implants, but not before many patients suffered irreversible damage.
I was exhausted, I was nauseated. I then went back to my plastic surgeon. He said it was just a total coincidence, nothing to do with my implant. And then finally I work at a doctor's surgery. They said, go and see this lady. And she actually drained the fluid and she tested it. And that's when she...
Monique Bach underwent breast augmentation and ended up getting cancer. She experienced debilitating symptoms including hair loss, memory problems, and heart palpitations, which were later attributed to cancer. The financial burden and health consequences were significant, highlighting the risks associated with certain implants. If this doesn't show you how important it is to do relentless testing, transparent reporting, and robust regulatory procedures, then I don't know what will. The physical and emotional suffering endured by patients and their families serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of prioritizing profit over safety. The stories behind faulty implants paint a picture of deep pain and injustice. But today, a wave of patient advocacy groups, whistleblowers, and activists are rallying together, demanding transparency and reform. Their voices are challenging corporations and regulators alike, calling for stricter testing, real accountability, and a healthcare system that genuinely prioritizes patient safety. The momentum is growing, Yet the risks remain for countless others who unknowingly place their trust in devices designed to heal, not harm. As we close this investigation, a question lingers. How many more lives must be put at risk before the truth forces a change?